You might have heard a little bit about esports winter. The esports winter. What is the esports winter? Did you really coin that term, Richard? Well, who really knows? Basically, everyone's fucked, and everyone's fucked in esports because the ecosystem is fundamentally broken. There are no revenue streams that make sense. Fans want tournaments that look like huge sports tournaments, but they don't want to pay for them. Sponsors are being lied to by tournament operators and team owners to give more money over for deliverables that can never be reached. The true metrics of esports and truly how large it is have been obfuscated through lie after lie after lie and manipulated, made up metric over and over and over and over and over again, to the point where there's nowhere left to hide. There's no more bushes to hide in. There's no more curtains to draw. And so we've come to the realization that, guess what? Esports was never sustainable. Well, it was. It was sustainable when it was small. It was sustainable when people went and bought a ticket and transported their own shit. And if you were an org, you had to pay for that. And then you won. And then you took a cut of the money. And the players got the majority. And the sponsors get paid for that because they got to name and brand the tournaments. And no one was really watching because there wasn't any online component to it. It was sustainable then. It made sense then. People made money then, just enough to sort of make it worthwhile. So esports winter's here because finally everyone's, been made to quit the bullshit. But one of the biggest things that hasn't changed is the greed, the inherent greed and entitlement of the esports fan. That's not changed at all and isn't going to change. What do you mean by that, Richard? Okay, well, let me just tell you. The esports fan, and this is a statistic from 2021, I think, and I've talked about this on multiple podcasts. Many of you will have heard it before. The average sports fan will spend $50 a year on their favorite sport in some capacity. That can be merchandise, that can be a subscription, that can be a pay-per-view, whatever. The average esports fan will spend $5 a year on their favorite esport, which is crazy because the average esports fan is in a demographic that has typically more disposable income than many other demographics that are marketed to. And so the great challenge in esports has been, how do you increase that spend? We've tried everything. Everyone's tried everything. They've tried pandering. They've tried making the tournaments better, bigger, shinier. You won't do pay-per-view. You won't buy a ticket. And so the problem we've got is people think it's better to have a bigger audience that doesn't pay than a smaller audience that does. And the truth is, much like many smaller streamers will tell you, I could have 30,000 viewers on Twitch. If none of you sub, that sucks. I can have 1,000 regular viewers on Twitch, as I do. I have between 1,000, 2,000, depends on what I'm talking about or what's happened or if I've written a story or whatever. And my community, I have way in excess of that in subs. So I make more than some of these bigger streamers that have more viewers because they just don't get the engagement. And that is proof right there, and I know it's true, that it's better to have smaller people that are able to financially engage with you. Esports has been too afraid to just say to esports fans, pay or fuck off. And it's been 20 years plus building this industry now. Some of you are grown-ups. What, you haven't got any money? You haven't got any money. You can't afford a pay-per-view. Like, get this, by the way. As I said on the most recent fucking esports gospel, people are saying, oh, if you just pay the price of a Twitch sub, just $4.99 for an event, we can literally make this shit work. And get this, we'll give you a bunch of free stuff if you give us that $4.99. So we'll even give you free skins that we just make. We'll give you this, we'll give you that. That's literally what they're saying, right? So for the price of a Twitch sub, you can have a fucking NBA level event and you get a bunch of free shit on top. And what do the esports fans say? Nah. Which is weird, because when I get a UFC pay-per-view, Dana White doesn't fucking say, oh, Rich, mate, if the fights are shit, don't worry. or give you a fucking Adesanya t-shirt or whatever. He does. No, if I pay $25 or whatever it is for a pay-per-view and the fights are shit, tough luck. You just got shit fights. But you pay it because I love the sport and I want to see the fights and I want to see them live. That's the price. So esports fans are out of their mind, and they have been for ages. And as I said, I was kind of ambivalent back in the day. I remember saying that like a pay-per-view right now with what you get and where we're at, it's probably not worth it, especially if what was happening was MLG, DreamHack and ESL were all laying their events over each other, slapping and then talking about pay-per-views and stuff. It was getting really aggressive. And I was against that. But here we are, 2023, current year. Guys, $4.99 for an event, please. Or fuck off. Like, I'm sorry. You've had it all free for fucking all this time. It's $4.99 now. I probably sound like Elon Musk with the Twitter blue, which, don't get me started on that. We'll do a stream on that later. But $4.99 or fuck off. Sorry. It's the only way. And this got brought up recently by, funnily enough, Esports. Is it .com these days? I don't know. So what they did... and this is unreal. I want to show you why esports fans are just garbage and why esports can never work. And it's not. It starts with the fans. Until we get a better class of fan, we're fucked. In many ways, like across the board. And it's a harsh truth. I know no one wants to hear it, but I don't give a fuck. I never give a fuck. I've always kept it real. And we're at critical mass now. So if you do care about esports, which the average esports fan, funnily enough, doesn't, but if you did or do, you're going to have to start paying for it, guys. You're going to have to, right? And until you do, well, fuck. But anyway, here's what happened, right? So Doa, you know Doa. He's been on my show. You know Doa. He's a fucking legend. He's a legend. This was in response to an Adam Apicella thread, and we'll get into that in a second, where he said, I love browsing esports Reddits and seeing fans rip the production level of a perfectly fine live event that they watch for $0, while simultaneously not understanding how egregiously expensive esports events are to operate due to NFL expectations with high school football revenue. Perfectly valid point by Adam Apicella. And Adam, obviously, as we all know, he's got a long-standing experience in running successful events, big, successful esports events. So, Doa said, seriously, you want to see esports grow? Let's start charging pay-per-view fees for weekend events again and putting seasonal VODs behind subscriptions. This is the GOM TV model. You'll have heard Monte Cristo talk about it a lot. That was the standard before game companies took over the scene and decided everything should be for free with zero plans for long-term sustainability. This is when esports became a marketing loss leader for the developers that make the games. Actually paying money for the esports content you consume means that content can keep going and improve. It was a good thing when it happened before, and it could still be a good thing now. Being tethered to game company marketing budgets isn't getting us anywhere. Right? Now, these are two tenured, seasoned professionals who have been at the top of their respective fields. Adam Apicella, there's absolutely no doubt about it. His experience with MLG, obviously most recently with Esports Engine. This is a guy who runs a great event. No one's got a bad thing to say about Adam Apicella. Doa, one of the leading casters in multiple fields, been a caster abroad, been a caster domestically. Their opinions matter. Well, why don't we check in with what the fans have to say? Surely there will be some nuanced discussion. First reply is heroic. No. Now, I like heroic. I really do. Love that org. Think they've been very unfairly maligned down the years. But I do seem to recall a recent headline about how heroic were on the precipice of going out of business and needed more money to stay afloat. Now maybe you should be encouraging revenue streams. But you see, the problem is how the esports orgs have been conditioned to think about how they make their money. They think that, oh, we'll get more sponsors if we go on a Blast tournament and it's free and we say 300,000 people saw your logo. They can't think bigger than that because our fucking industry's been so broken for so long. Even how people think about the revenue streams doesn't work anymore. Anyway, Down you go. This is King Killer. No. Lol. Nick Voidable. Ambrosic. No. Someone called Purple Lion. Pay-per-view would kill the exposure that's been helping esports grow. We are out of the growth stage now. I mean, like, you do realise that. We've existed for 2 decades. Like, when we're meant to be out of the growth stage. We've been in stadiums. We've even peaked and shrank. Like, maybe the period of growth is kind of over. And instead of doing free events and loss leader events for exposure is probably a bad idea at this stage. No? All right, no problem. Make the in-person events more of a spectacle to make the fees worth it. Fill the stadiums for a profit and let word of mouth do the job. He's got it all figured out. Purple Lion has got it all figured out. Yeah, that's a really good business model. Fill the stadiums for a profit. Again, no one's making a profit on ticket sales and events. We're going to get to that. Do you think filling an esports stadium, you think people are selling those tickets for premium prices? You think people aren't giving the tickets away just to have the crowd there? I mean, shit, we've only recently started charging like $100 for a weekend fucking pass. Anyway, that'll help viewership. You're going to see a lot of this really dumb take that, like, if you have 1 million views and you go, oh, hey, we've got 1 million views. Well, what happens when the sponsors go, yeah, but we can get 1 million views somewhere else? So what does the 1 million views get you? But if you said, we've got 200,000 paying subscribers, which one's better? Oh, yeah, it's the smaller number. Right. My bad. But yeah, viewership. Viewership, of course. This is like Bethesda making people pay for Skyrim mods. Esports needs innovation in generating revenue, but charging for what's always been free is a lazy route that alienates the people who built it up in the first place. Spoiler, people like me, desperately calling for different revenue streams. This is NRG Seth, Director of Content at NRG. Again, another organisation probably hurting financially. No. Justin Cupcake, don't even know who that is, says watch viewership drop. Yeah, it's fine. Doesn't matter if the viewership drops if no one's paying for anyone. Team SMG, all the fucking social media interns getting on this now. Pay-per-view is not a good idea, right? Literally every other sport in the world uses it as a model in some capacity, but it's actually not a good idea. Gamers aren't going to pay to watch content. Why? Why will someone pay $60 fucking to pre-order? I'm being generous with 60. Why will you pay $80 to pre-order the latest Call of Duty, the same as the last Call of Duty, so you can play 24 hours ahead of everyone else, so you'll just be able to pound some noobs? But if I ask you for $5 for a fucking Call of Duty event that you're going to watch for free, I've suddenly crossed the fucking line. The best way is to diversify services and embrace the power of fan engagement by offering exclusive behind-the-scenes content, rewards, educational materials, and many more. Or you mean all that content that they already get for free? Well, we can't charge for that. We've established if they get it for free now, we can't ever charge for it. Laughing my ass off. You all thought viewership was low before. Remember, viewership's irrelevant if people aren't paying for it. We got a no, God please no. Classic awkward face meme. MLG had pay-per-view replay packs, and look where that got them. Yeah, it got their company bought out by Activision Blizzard for tens of millions of dollars. And people did pay for those things. You will notice, of course, only the hardcore esports fan paid for those things. A lot of people don't even pay for pay-per-view fights. And do you think a lot of people are going to pay pay-per-view for watching video games tournaments? Oh, that's all right then. Esports fans just hate esports. It's fine. That's the day esports would die. Maybe it deserves to die if no one would pay. If I have a product that no one will pay for, is the product good? The answer is no. The answer is no. Fuck no, I'd stop watching. This is cringe. I don't even know what happened here. Jay Lee has had a bad time. Maybe stop using the trash heap that is Reddit. where irrelevant people go to complain about BS to gauge how most people feel. I just don't know what that's bringing to the table in a discussion about pay-per-view for esports. But, you know, you go off. You're right. Doesn't seem like the brightest candle on the cake. That's Doa they're talking about. A highly intelligent man, a highly articulate man, and a guy who has been a direct beneficiary of the pay-per-view model when he was working in South Korea. If this happens, the viewership would drop, meaning less money coming in from sponsors. Yeah. Esports fans. Yeah, there might very well be less money from sponsors, but you know what? There would be more money from the fucking pay-per-view. From the pay-per-view. You'd get more money. If traditional sports can do it without pay-per-view, then so can esports. Traditional sports does not do it without pay-per-view. I am really struggling to think of a sport that has no pay-per-view component to its broadcasts. MLG did events like this with StarCraft 2, and they quickly stopped doing this. If X League were to do it, Y League would be praised and would likely have higher viewership even if they weren't on the same tier of events. Now, yeah, because 2010 is exactly the same as 2023. The esports landscape is utterly unchanged. And so if it was a bad idea 13 years ago, it must still be a bad idea now. Quantum quagmire, or quagmire, as they say in America. You need interesting events exciting enough to pay for. Currently, it's color commentary over stall gameplay. Unless you are into the game, there is no universal appeal. Turn the player mics on. They need to be a bigger part of the show. Better editing, better scripting. I have got to say, this is it. This is the worst esports opinion. This is the worst opinion ever expressed about esports I have ever seen written down. The argument is, because it's commentary over gameplay, unless you're into the game, there's no universal appeal. Like all of sports. But okay, let's shelve that. They want to mic players up and make them a bigger part of the show. Interesting, because I would say right now, esports makes the players too much of the show, to the point where even gameplay itself is ignored so they can fucking zoom out and see a player reaction. We also do turn the mics on. We've done that. We all have to tiptoe around it because players are dickheads, and even though they've got a mic on, they say crazy shit. We have to jettison entire segments in case they say something insane. But then, better editing and better script. What script? It's live sports. Unbelievable. Don't even pay to watch football. Why would I pay to watch esports? I never watch another game of COD again. These are the esports fans, by the way, guys. A COD fan, they're huge COD fan. I'd stop watching the game if I had to pay a small derisory amount of money for it. This would be the double tap. We need to finally get rid of esports. Fuck no. You can't charge half of your fans who aren't even old enough to work a job. Want to see the viewership decline? Again, doesn't matter. Viewership is irrelevant if it cannot be monetized. Because this is how the viewership declines. That will backfire hard. He's done the Zoomer thing. Hard as in block capitals. Especially for those who rely on those VODs for practice and training. Fucking pay for them then. You rely on them for practice and training, implying you're somewhere in the aspirational ladder of competition. No, pay £4 fucking to gain access to them then. This is great. For example, if Rocket League would add a feature where you become one of the eggs in the stand of the stadium and you get to view the game from there, you should have to pay for that, but it is too late. so fucking stupid. I'm paying to be a virtual egg. Oh, fuck, that's killed me. Whew, fuck. You become one of the eggs. It's a good thing the game companies took over, isn't it? Pay-per-view format puts a barrier between new viewers and will only pull a small fraction of the current viewer base. Explain to me how that is growth again. It's not about growth. It's about sustainable revenue stream. Fuck no. No. That had failed. 100%. L take from a legacy caster. We can get into the Zoomers now. It's like a fucking VTuber there. If they want it to die even further than the wasteland it currently is, then this is a great idea. No 13-year-old is paying to watch their teen play. Don't know, maybe their parents could. Just a thought. Maybe the 13-year-olds, don't have to be the ones that pay. Maybe they don't get to watch it live. Maybe they get the VODs for free the day after, We got to look at something. This is great. From Tuck Frump, no doubt a political genius. Yes, if all the athletes get paid a decent % of the revenues. This person doesn't have the awareness to understand that that the largest chunk of the ecosystem now, all of that sponsor revenue's going on player salaries. So they get a cut of the fucking pay-per-view as well, do they? If the athletes get nothing, then fuck no. Just going to be illegally streamed. Esports isn't mainstream enough to make it pay-per-view. Fine, just have to give it away for free. Lol, crying. Emoji, absolutely not. I would look for a free alternative or stop watching. Cheers, you're a great fan. You're a fantastic fan. 1000% would hurt way more than it would help. Think it's time to start watching esports in bars? Thoughts? I don't know. Don't think that helps. Really. This would be the death of esports. I'd stop watching, not gonna lie. Thank God pirating exists. You think the average esports fan's willing to pay to see the matches? On and on and on it goes. On and on and on it goes. There's dozens more comments. All of them saying the same thing. I'm an esports fan. I wouldn't pay to watch esports. Well, listen, maybe esports sucks then. It's just shit. It's shit. It's shit if the only reason you will engage with it is because it's something to do for free. It must be garbage. It must be garbage. If you would literally do anything else, if it was paywalled, it's not good. It's not a hobby. You don't really care about it. To give you an idea as well about how sort of fucked the model is, the original Adam Apicella thread that sparked it off, I believe, because Adam's kind of come alive a bit more now that he's not working at Esports Engine, which I like. I always like raw Adam Apicella, like being a bit more vocal. This was the original bit, and then he did a follow-up today that's relevant. That's the original one that we read that Doa was replying to, and then he says, "We have decades of investment that needs to happen before this is the commercial behemoth it could be, but instead of being okay with production and quality being in line with revenue, we expect it to be traditional sports again, while expecting to pay $0 to watch the content. The NBA started in fucking barns until it was big enough for stadiums. We want it all now." And then this guy, AOE Steve, who I appear to have blocked, I'm guessing because he's a fucking moron based on this, spoken like someone whose esports event company crashed and burned. He said, if by crashed and burned you mean was acquired after 4 years of meteoric growth, sure, which is accurate. And by the way, which one are you even talking about? Because MLG did pretty well, was one of the industry pioneers, got bought by Activision Blizzard, and then this new one he did, Esports Engine, just got bought by the fucking Saudis, and I'm sure he's walking out with a big fucking paycheck. So just an utter cretin, as is de rigueur in esports. De rigueur, as I'm supposed to say. I just like saying it with the guttural de rigueur. But anyway, he followed it up today, and this kind of, I hope, gives everybody a bit more of a perspective on even how when you run events, you're not making money. People, like you saw there were a few idiots saying, well, you just bleed the people who go to the live events in the stadiums, so I can sit at home in my shorts, eating Cheetos and watching it for free. For free! Me! I get it for free. Well, guys, the stadium events, it's, fucking not working either. Adam says here, everyone's speculating about esports event revenues. Let's look at Riot's LCS stadium events with broad numbers from the point of view of someone without insider knowledge, but relying on 20 years of doing this. Sneak peek, even the biggest publisher, esports events lose money. Let's look at Madison Square Garden. Capacity 20,800 fans in the round setup where everyone has a good viewing angle. Let's assume they can squeeze 20,800 and they sell all those tickets. Newsflash, sellouts aren't easy. And by the way, there was the headline when they did sell out the Lakers stadium. Obviously it wasn't. There were some stands that weren't available. Anyway, at 20,800 at $75 average per ticket, you're looking at 1,560,000 in total gate. Now let's assume every attendee spends $35 on merch, an outrageous assumption. That's a high dollar average, and every attendee won't buy merch. You're at 728,000 minus 60% COGS equals 291,000 net. Now, by the way, in terms of merch, as we've established, the average esports fan will spend $5 a year on the esport they love the most, even if they engage with multiple ones. That is the spend. This was the problem with the Overwatch League. In the original fucking report that they put out, they were making out that, like, esports fans would come to events and spend $35. They'd buy t-shirts, they'd buy hoodies, then they would sit down and they would drink a fucking Bud Light, and they would, there'd be concessions. No, there's none of that. There's none of that. No one's doing that. Then, right, now since you don't own the venue, they will see $0 from concessions. That's another thing I'm talking about. The concessions, all the shit you sell in there. If you don't own the stadium, you're not getting a cut of that. So where does the other potential revenue come from? Sponsors, sure, but those typically cover the entire season. So in other words, if you get a sponsor for an event and you have a live event finals, you don't get to re-up and get the sponsorship money again for the final. They've already incorporated you will have a live event finals into the original sponsorship deal. And on top of that, you'll have to do a bunch of fucking, like, decking. You'll have to get a bunch of, like, fucking billboards, graphics, like, for live in the event, to put on the fucking Jumbotron. You'll have to break up your broadcast with a segment when it's like, that's all baked in. You're not getting anything extra for that. CBB sports commissions, probably high five figures, although six figures. Many times in the form of marketing help or cost savings for things like hotel rooms. So where does that leave us? So the revenue is $1.56 million for the gate, $300K for merch, $100K from the CVB, $500K sponsorship when allocating a portion of the year-long sponsorship to the event, $500K media rights when allocating a portion of the year-long deal to the event. That's almost $3 million in revenue. And by the way, I'll also just add, Riot Games were raving about how they couldn't get these fucking media rights deals anymore. And again, they sort of painted themselves into a corner with that. Riot Games wanted to put it out on Twitch, and they wanted it on Twitch for free, and they wanted it to have all this discoverability and pushed out there, and that was the LCS broadcast. That's what they wanted to do. That's what they thought was good for growth. That's what they went for. Now, they've had multiple deals with major sort of normal media companies, mainstream sports companies go down the Swanee, and they're going, oh yeah, it's incredible. We just can't make these big media rights deals anymore in esports. Well, all right, who fucked that up? Oh yeah, it was the games developers. It was Riot Games pushing this fucked up. It's free all of the time, never paywalled, no money. Live events. We're going to just rely on Twitch to promote our shit and have a special relationship there all of the time. And at the opposite end of the spectrum, Activision Blizzard fleecing everyone with $90 million for 2 years of an Overwatch League that peaked on the first day it broadcast and has never come close to the 426,000 fucking viewers it had on day one ever since, and has been in fucking free fall since then. The developers fucked this up. Also, let's also just give a little side congratulations to Valve, because when ESL sold Dota mages to Facebook and the entitled Dota community cried about it, not to say that Facebook was good, guys, but bigger picture, can any esports fan see the bigger picture beyond, but I want it now and I want it free? Oh, that's right, you can't see the bigger picture, can you? Because you're an idiot. So Valve publicly came out and said, we won't give people the right to broadcast Dota unless it's on a platform of the community's liking. So between the big three and probably Ubisoft and, snuck in there somehow and everyone else, it turns out that, yes, guess what? You painted esports into a corner and we can't sell broadcast rights to anyone because who the fuck would buy it? 3 million in revenue from a live event sounds like a lot. You see there, he says 3 million revenue. Sound good? Well, as a standalone, I can tell you it barely covers the cost of rent Madison Square Garden for 2 days. Plus the union labour, not to mention the build-out, production, broadcast, etc. One of the things Americans have to do in certain states, you've got to use union-accredited labour. It can't just be your own people. So if you go to a fucking stadium, you have to hire union-accredited, union-approved workers to help you with the load-in, the load-out. Everyone's got to get their fucking pound of flesh. It's one of the reasons why a lot of Americans are union-adverse, because of that shit. So that eats into your overheads. Not to mention just the cost of having your big shiny venue to rent in the first place. You want to be at a legendary stadium. Legendary stadiums cost legendary amounts of money to fucking hire. It's very expensive. He then says, so why does it work? From a sports business point of view, esports only works when accounting for MTX from digital in-game revenue. Our options are to make it cheaper or lean into MTX. That's it. That's why content is free, because esports as a standalone loses money. The most successful publishers blend their esports with the game marketing, so esports can help drive their core business from an aspirational top of the pyramid point of view. And this is what I've been saying the entire time. Why did Riot Games want to give you an esports product for free? Why did they want to lose money on it? They say we lose money on the esport, but what they lose in the esport, they more than gain. They probably gain 100-fold in terms of what it does for people coming to the game. Because once you say, we've created a ladder system, and everybody that plays in the ladder system is part of this path to pro, and here's a league to watch, and if you want to get better, you watch this, and here's a player we've profiled, and if you want to be good, you do what he does. And once all of that's there, and I'm playing League for fucking 6 hours a day, playing it in my downtime, guess what's going to happen? I'm going to get bored. I'm going to wander onto the shop. And even though I'm not spending $5 on an esport, not spending a penny on an esport, I'm about to pay $20 for a Lee Sin skin that I saw in Worlds. And this, Monty's made this point before, they don't tell you the data, but I know from talking to people at Riot Games, they used to say to certain players during like LCS, Worlds, big tournaments, hey, it'd be really cool if you use that skin today. And the players would go, fuck, it's Riot Games. They hold my fucking livelihood in the palm of their hands. And so the player would go out and use that particular skin. And what do you think happens? Do you think they sell lots of that skin? Oh, yeah, they do. And do you think anyone in esports gets a fucking cut of that? Oh, no, they don't. So that's the problem with the esports fan. They won't pay $5 to watch the event. They'll pay $20 for a skin their favourite fucking player wears during the event they watch for free. How do you deal with that as a customer base? It's infuriating. It's ridiculous. And this is why Riot Games give you an esports product, because that is just one of the many ways it benefits them. He then goes on to say, we have a long way to go to make it standalone. He says, P.S., there are some badass tournament organisers out there, from the smallest grassroots to the 800-pound gorillas in our scene. MTX share is life-changing for their P&L. If publishers want to really make their scene hum, give the TOs a revenue share of MTX related to their event. Which, look, at the end of the day, one of the things that we talked about in the latest esports gospel, one of the biggest problems we've had up until this point is that the developers didn't want to share. The developers wanted everything. So it starts with, back when they created these franchise leagues where only the developer is the operator for the league. It was other partners that built the league up. It was MLG, it was DreamHack, it was ESL via IEM that built up League of Legends, and it was other like just little ones, IPL, and obviously, you know, GOM doing it in fucking Korea and everything. It was all of these entities using League of Legends with permission from Riot to run their own leagues to create a disparate open circuit that made it worthwhile for MGOs to come in and have a League of Legends team. They picked up a team and they supported a team and they sent them to these events, and it was all worthwhile in the ecosystem. And then Riot Games snatched that away and said, we're making our own league now. It's going to be hermetically sealed. We're going to choose who gets to be in it. And if you don't play in our league, there's no point in having a League of Legends team whatsoever. P.S. We might allow you to have a roadshow game now and then because you were good little boys in helping us build our league. That's what they did. And then, on top of that, what did they do? For the few they let keep running League of Legends events, they didn't give them any extra support. They didn't give them any extra marketing. In fact, actually, here's something I've never talked about. This is like something I've always wanted to get into. I've just never really had a venue about it. When Activision Blizzard initially created, they were putting the feelers out to third-party tournament operators about running Overwatch tournaments. They explicitly said, we're going to run some early cups, some early tournaments, and then we're going to have this huge franchise league. And if you wanted to run one of the early cups for the Overwatch League on Activision Blizzard's behalf and help build up their esport, which we all know went on to become the ridiculous farce that is OWL, you had to agree to things that were insane. You couldn't use stats, for example, in your tournament. They said the only stats that we want are stats for when we start Overwatch League. You can't use stats. We get the rights to the stats. They wanted you to if you have any super cool ideas or super cool graphics or anything like that, we need to see them first because it cannot be anything that would eclipse the Overwatch League when we launched it. So in other words, they were telling the people that were going to lay the foundations for them to have a successful esports league, they were telling them that they must create an inferior product if they wanted to be involved at all. And that's why so many TOs didn't do it, because you had to agree to that. You had to agree to Activision Blizzard staff being in your production truck during the live event. It simply wasn't worth it. So games developers now are all talking about, hey, let's be coup de la, Mikasa, Tsukasa, all that bullshit. No, the reality is you should have shared at the beginning. You could have built something big if you just let other people in, but they don't do it. But it starts with the fan. It starts with a fan being willing to just dip into their pocket and just pay a ticket. Just buy a ticket. Just buy a fucking ticket. Meet me halfway and just buy a ticket for the event. But they won't. They won't do it. They simply will not do it. And so we're stuck with the bottom of the pyramid generating no revenue and the top of the pyramid being so top heavy and expensive.